First Hiroshima bomb, I'll go all over again. There was a timer attached to a certain piece of dynamite. When the dynamite explodes, it drops a hollow ring of uranium-235 onto a rod of uranium-235. The problem with the start the fission process is that it doesn't create any actual action, it just drops it on top. The reason because of that is it needs a boost, it needs the extra neutron. So the way that would work is that the base of the bomb, the very bottom of it, is constructed out of polonium-209 and beryllium, which is another element. Yeah, polonium is extremely radioactive. To give you a comparison, uranium usually will have around 500,000 becquerels worth of energy. Polonium-210, the most radioactive form of polonium, can have as much as 5.4 quadrillion becquerels of energy. So it makes uranium look pathetic. It fires off neutrons insanely. That's also the reason why it doesn't last very long. The most stable form of polonium, I believe, lasts for something like not even a year. So it's pretty pathetic compared to uranium-235, which lasts for over 4 billion years. And when that happens, as I said prior, so I'm just going to make like a mock little uranium atom because I'm not in the mood of drawing 92 protons. Basically, what happens is the polonium and beryllium base will set off the neutron. The neutron will hit the uranium, and the uranium atom, which will now be 1 proton bigger and form uranium-236, which is very unstable, and will break apart into barium-141 and krypton-92. And when this happens, their atoms are smaller, so just whatever's, And when that happens, a bunch of other neutrons are released, and then they hit other uranium-235 molecules, and then they keep bonding, and the same thing happens over and over and over and over again, until there's no more power left. And there's also another form of nuclear science like this called nuclear fusion, which is actually the opposite. It works by taking a bunch of other nuclei, usually form of hydrogen. That's how I get the term hydrogen bombs. It's used in hydrogen bombs. Usually it's either deuterium or tritium. Is used for humans, but nuclear fusion is actually what happens on our sun every single day. Yeah. It combines atoms together, and that allows the sun to remain to be alive for all these years. And eventually the sun will die. And that's connected with the gravity, right? Yeah, gravity keeps nuclear fusion in control, so the sun doesn't just explode and kill everything. So gravity keeps that in check, and it's fusion versus gravity until a point where the fuel runs out. The sun can't convert any more hydrogen into helium, and the only thing that really remains is just a core of carbon, and that's it. And then also for very big stars, either it'll explode into a supernova or it'll turn into a black hole. But then again, I'm a chemist, not a physicist. So fusion basically is the opposite stance. It essentially takes this atom and, merges it all, basically, in simple terms. And when that happens, it releases a lot of energy. Now, this actually is much more powerful than a fission. The problem with fusion is you require more materials to do so. Fission, you really only need uranium-235 and polonium. That's really all you need. For this, though, you're going to need tritium, deuterium, uranium-235, uranium-238. You're going to need titanium, beryllium. It's very complicated, and I'm not a physicist, so I'm not going to go into any further speculation regarding that matter. But that's basically what that is. Of course, then we can go into nuclear power, which I was talking about earlier, which is basically used as fission. Now, the problem with people who hate nuclear power, I don't know why mainly, maybe only because to nuclear waste, which, contrary to what the Simpsons may say, is not a glowing piece of plutonium. So nuclear waste usually just refers to any radioactive matter that's generated from the fission process. Now, the list is very long. Some of these are in pretty big amounts. For example, cesium-137, or radiocesium, is in pretty abundant amounts when it's generated. The real problem with nuclear waste is the amount of nuclear waste in the United States could make a single football field an entire football field just filled with nuclear waste with us 20 feet tall if you were to take all the nuclear waste and put it on top. Of course, but to be fair, one nuclear plant individually, after 60 years of operation, could generate around one grocery store worth of nuclear waste, compared to a coal plant, which can generate thousands of times that amount of waste and sulfur dioxide and hydrocarbon gases. So, but of course, there also are, the problem with nuclear waste is some of it lasts for a very, very, very long time. Some of them, such as iodine-131, will only last for a short time. So that's only really in the short term. Then there's also plutonium-241, which lasts for relatively short, around 14 years. But that's not the problem. As what happens afterwards is the problem. Because once plutonium-241 decays, it turns into another chemical element, americium-241, which is actually ironically used in smoke detectors. Problem with americium, it will actually last for 432 years. So we'll all be long dead, and we'll probably be whatever happens after that. But that's still not the end of everyone's problems, because the second that ends, it turns into another element, neptunium-237, which lasts for a very scary 2.1 million years. So by then, we'll probably, I'm guessing, of course, because I'm absolutely pessimistic when it comes to nuclear things. I really am. I think the human race might not even be able to survive 100 years, considering we have weapons to kill ourselves several hundred times over. What is the truth? Yeah, so that's the particular problem. Of course, there are other materials and such, but, it's nothing too bad. Now, there's also liquid waste, which is usually like liquefied materials. Cesium's actually liquid at times, but also this can include radioactive water. Now you may be wondering, what the heck is radioactive water? Well, what happens is during that, as I said, the heating process, and all the heat is released, all that water. But the problem is, now that there's uranium nuclei, it can come off into the water. And now the water is officially, well, putting it in simplest terms, radioactive. And also, when the fuel rods are taken out, the fuel rods are extremely hot. They're over 500 degrees Celsius. So, obviously, touching that would burn your hands off. So, they'll put them into other pools of water for it to cool for a bit. And, of course, that will also make the water radioactive. So, of course, that can be cleaned down and stuff like that. Now, one solution to nuclear waste is to simply take the nuclear materials and reprocess them. As I said, plutonium, this annoying little neighbor here, can be reprocessed again to form more fuel. Because also, another form of plutonium, plutonium-239, which is also used in bombs, can be used instead of uranium-235 as a substitute. The problem is it's actually much more radioactive. So, as I said before, the average uranium atom is like 500,000 becquerels. Plutonium